Adrienne Bailon preyed on Israel Houghton when he cheated on his wife. Tell me your thoughts down below, guys.
The first time we ever prayed together, she prayed for me.
Oh my gosh.
I told her, this is what's going on in my life. It's bad. If once the world finds out, my life is over. My career's over. My livelihood was attached to whether people thought I was a Christian or not. What I shared with her was like embarrassing and painful and all that. She leaned across the table and she grabbed my hand and she just started praying for me. This is when we're still friends.
I think people believe that if they've been happily married for 10, 15, 20 years, that it doesn't really matter how they got together. Because you're telling me this married man came to you while he was cheating on his wife, and you didn't pray for his marriage, you prayed for him. She goes on to talk about how her biggest fear is being cheated on. So you married the man who cheated on his wife? I just feel like people think it doesn't matter as long as they're happy now. We all could have gone our entire lives not knowing this is how they got together, but they insist on telling us. And these men insist on saying it like it's some kind of humiliation ritual. Look at all I put her through, but she's still here. There is a viral clip of her talking about how he had to show her his divorce papers.
Yo, you got me out here looking crazy. Like, let me see the paperwork.
So you wanted to verify that the man that you were comforting and counseling when he was cheating on his wife wasn't also cheating on you. And of course, they put God in it. And they talked about how the old her would have been like, I'm not messing with no man who cheated on his wife. But this version of her was able to comfort him and to pray with him. It's like the pastor who ironed her husband's clothes while he prepared to meet his mistress. They always act like God gave them the grace to deal with these flawed men. I'm sure they think their marriage is beautiful. But some of these origin stories.
No. Like, I pretty much would stalk him online. Like, I wanted to hear.
This is true. And y'all
every song he had ever made.
Wow.
I had to watch every preaching he had ever preached. And then, like, I find us in conversation later on and, like, be quoting things that he said. And he'd be like, how do you... I'd be, oh, no. Literally would find myself in these moments that were so tragically, like, are you stalking? Are you watching my preachings online? At some point, I had to confess to him.
You mean to tell me Adrienne Bailon and Israel Houghton got up here on this, was it like podcast interview or whatever, and talked about the way that they met and everybody's just like upset, or how they got together rather. So apparently the story kind of went such like he was telling her everything that he was going through in his life. He was such in a bad place and how the gospel industry was going to look at him differently, all this stuff, right? And she asked to pray for him. And everybody's like, she knew that he was in a situation where he had cheated on his wife and she had asked to pray for him, not for his marriage, da-da-da-da. Let me just say this, okay? I think people need to stop sharing their stories about how they got together. Please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. The second thing that I want to say is, y'all are so shocked. I want y'all to know, as somebody who grew up in church, it's a lot of women in church that move like that. It's a lot of women in church that is waiting for the perfect excuse to take your man. They're looking for the perfect excuse to jump in and be like, oh, really? Let me pray for you because I'm a good woman in Christ and I'm just here and I just love the Lord and I might find you attractive a little bit too. So we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm telling y'all, I've seen that my whole life growing up in church. So this is not new to me. I think it's like new to y'all, like seeing this and this factor. But like, it's not something that's new that happens in church. Like this happens quite often. And it's kind of embarrassing. Like stories like this are like kind of embarrassing because people want to bring God into it, but it's also like, where is your integrity? Because you know that man was like involved with somebody else. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But let this be a story to keep your relationship offline. If y'all happy, shut up about it, especially if you got a story like this.
Adrienne. I was someone that was obsessed with The Real because I loved watching the show. I loved watching the ladies, and it's something that I always wanted to do myself. And while I didn't necessarily agree with Adrienne's points all the time, I thought she was really solid. She's been married to Israel for some time now, and I think that they feel comfortable sharing different details about the things that they, got going on. But I remember her trying to clear up the fact that he wasn't really married when they got together. Now we can only take her word for it. Lonnie is very expressive. If you watch the show, Lonnie's very expressive. And during that time, Lonnie was silent. Now, again, I can't say that I do want to say that I think Lonnie knew the truth and everybody's kind of like, okay, girl. But Adrienne does strike me as the type of person that says stuff and then she just expects you to believe it. Like she just is like, they filed under their initials. Whatever. You like it. I love it. She was always very big on like no cheating. And so it was interesting when she got with Israel, because I'm like, yo, like this man cheated on his wife. Multiple baby mamas. It just felt like, I don't know. And I think she knew the wife. The wife is keeping it very classy. She's never really come out and said anything against Adrienne. I don't even think the kids have said anything against Adrienne. She's probably a lovely woman, but every time people see them, there is a side eye. Just because of that history, it's just tainted. And then it's really hard to trust a couple, especially if he just got divorced and then y'all are just getting married or just getting together. There always seems to be some sort of overlapping. So it's not hard to believe that people feel like if you just cheated on your wife, it's not going to be hard to put two and two together to feel like, okay, well, he cheated on his wife and then got with you immediately. I don't know. It's just something where it rubs people weird. But now seeing that you pray for this man, I don't know, man. I'm not against prayer. I'm not against church. I'm not against any of that type of stuff. But something about these church couples, whenever besides Kev on stage and his wife, but a lot of these church couples, man, it just, everything seems so performative, and again, who am I? I'm just somebody that watches them and just seen from a distance and afar, but praying over this man, like, not the wife. I mean, not the woman that was actually traumatized is a choice, but hey.
Adrienne and Israel got married in November 2016. Israel got divorced in February of 2016 from his wife of 20 plus years. And this is why everybody's dragging Adrienne, because this clip from the Angie Martinez show is like, let's watch the clip.
She leaned across the table and she grabbed my hand and she just started praying for me. This is when we're still friends.
So basically, what he's trying to say is him and Adrienne were just friends, and he confided in her and said he cheated on his wife and he didn't know what to do. And she said, don't worry, I'll pray for you. And just a few short months after that, they got married. This is actually not the first time that they're trying to justify their timeline. She actually addressed this on The Real. I used to watch The Real all the time, and she talked about it on the show. And she said with her own mouth that him and his wife were already separated before they got together, and that he had already filed for divorce. But that timeline is kind of close. It was literally within the same year. All of this been swirling around, and we have not heard one word from his ex-wife. Where you at, honey? We want to hear from you, because we know there's always two sides to every story. And I'm really curious to know what's her side of it.
Now that everyone is talking about Adrienne Bailon, I have always felt that Adrienne was meant to be with Rob Kardashian. I don't know. In my heart of hearts, I like Israel Houghton's, her current husband's, I'm current husband. She's going to marry another one. Who knows? Anyway, but I've always liked his music, right? But I've just always felt in my heart that, she was meant to end up with Rob Kardashian. You know what I mean? The happily ever after. Because if y'all ever watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, that relationship, it looked so good. They were truly in love. Rob crying over that girl, he really, really loved Adrienne. And they made such a beautiful couple, So I'll dissect whatever is going on and what Israel Houghton was saying on that podcast when I get a moment, because I was watching some of the clips and I was like, this is a lot. I don't know. He was saying a lot, but also saying a lot of nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm squinting and I'm also reading the body language. Adrienne looks like she was looking at him like he was about to spill some really specific hot tea that she's be careful. I don't know, girl. I just always saw Adrienne a part of the Kardashian family. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know why, because she dated Rob. She really was a part of the family. And I just imagine, people grow apart and go their own separate ways and then eventually come back together. And I think that's what is meant to happen with Adrienne and Rob. She's not supposed to be with a man who has 7 million kids. Apparently that's what Israel Houghton has, which I'm like, what? Also, a little bit of a red flag. With multiple different women, because now he has a child with Adrienne and him. Apparently he has 7 kids. The streets are talking. Girl, what?
Did anybody else have the misfortune of seeing that interview with Adrienne from the Cheetah Girls and her now husband, her current husband, Israel Houghton? I need them to know that y'all don't have a good love story. Okay, that was actually cringe and embarrassing, and I cannot stand people who use religion as a weapon, who use religion and God to dodge taking accountability for their actions. Israel Houghton is a very, very famous gospel singer, okay? I was listening to him as a kid, and this man repeatedly cheated on his wife. Had children outside of the marriage, right? And then popped out with Adrienne from the Cheetah Girls while he was still married. And in this interview, you would think that he was the one who got cheated on. Like, he is talking as though he is the victim, for one. And oh my gosh, like, I just couldn't believe this happened to me, and I was so ashamed, and I was in a dark place. And I'm just like, you're the one who cheated. And he's also phrasing it as though God did this, you know, so he could end up in the marriage that he's in now. Like, that's that's what it gave. And it's just like, you have a choice. God gives us a choice. You made a choice. God did not tell you to fornicate. God did not tell you to commit adultery. Don't blame your sin on my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, okay? And it is so clear that Adrienne was dealing with this man while he was married, and she knew he was married, and she didn't care. She didn't care, okay? Because he's saying, you know, when I was still married, we were just friends at the time. Why are you, a married man who has already been caught cheating multiple times, has had children outside of your marriage, why are you even engaging in, you know, any type of friendship with a woman? You lack self-control. You don't need female friends. What do you need a female friend for? Your wife. That is your friend, okay? And, you know, when I told her everything that I did, she just prayed for me, and I just knew, Adrienne, you were a pick me. Like, you met a man who was telling you that he's been cheating on his wife, blah, 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 and, you know, and she said, I just told him, like, that doesn't define who you are, and, you know, I just really prayed for him. It was just very cringe, and it's just like, don't ever tell that story again. Don't ever tell that story again. You were sleeping with a married man. You didn't care that he was married. You know, his marriage was on the last leg, so you got promoted because the wife left. Like, and the only reason why he probably won't cheat on you is because you're old, or because he's old. And I mean, you're a star, so it's gonna come out. You're more likely to leave, okay? But they need to shut the hell up and don't ever tell that story again. Like, stop acting like y'all, you know, God just placed y'all together. Y'all are disgusting.
Watching Adrienne and her husband's interview, I realized that men love to say, oh, I was born with sin, that's why I fuck up the way I fuck up, instead of literally taking responsibility and owning up to it. That man said nothing and said everything at the same time. One thing I know for sure is the fact that, like, I don't think he thinks he did anything wrong. He thinks like this is the way life was supposed to play out, and he's just happy. When he literally, the only expectation was for him to keep his vows to his wife of 20 years. And for him to stand 10 toes down and be worried about his career and how the world would perceive him is wild. It's not wild, it's very man of him. That's how men think. They're worried about, oh, are we gonna have a great day if we're not good? They're worried about themselves than the person they actually hurt. And I also believe he manipulated Adrienne into that marriage. I don't care what anyone says. I think he manipulated, because the way he was like, oh, you know, I told her what I had done, and, you know, she prayed for me. Why are you not talking to your wife? And why didn't Adrienne be like, you know, like, go sit with the Lord, figure that out. I'm gonna go find your wife and pray with her. I live in a small town, and there was a man who did that same exact thing. So this is not something new. Men do it all the time, where they're married, their marriage is on the rocks, they're talking to another woman, they're telling this woman, oh, my marriage is ending, my marriage is ending. Also, they were dating way before the marriage ended. They were not divorced. Also, separated is not divorce. You should never be dating anyone who's separated. They're still married. They're still married in body, soul, and paper. Watching that interview, I was like, ill. Performative at best. Gross, ill. And for them to just like put Jesus over a band-aid. All that to say, all of that was ill. I love Adrienne down bad forever because cheated girls, cheated sisters. But a girl, like, did you just want a title of a family and a husband? Him? And for this man to say, oh, like, you know, I was a super Christian, you know, like, I'm human. No one wanted you to be a super Christian. We wanted you to keep your vows. Did I already say that? I think I did. And for you to be married 9 months later, after being married 20, it's crazy. I don't trust men as far as I can. Well, I can't even throw them, so there's that. Also, he told secrets. He was like, oh, you know, I just knew when we met, when we got married that, you know, this is the person for me. No, baby, y'all were talking, y'all were being messy around. Because why is this girl, the first time you tell her she wants to pray for you instead of go to check on And I feel like that man met her when she was so vulnerable, and he slid right in. He slid right in. And she was like, oh, this is what I have always wanted, you know. This man, never mind. Mind you, and he's a holy man. I'm going to tell you, never mind.
I watched the Adrienne and Israel interview, and I have some thoughts. First of all, it started coming up in my For You page because everyone was here upset because Adrienne kept talking highly about her husband, and, you know, how could she pray for him as he had just told him he was a cheater, and she took a cheater, and she was so desperate that she went ahead and married him even though he was a cheater. And quite honestly, I'm extremely disappointed because a lot of these people call themselves Christians. And my whole thing is this: how can we sit here as Christians and judge a person for a mistake they made and not think that they are capable of being redeemed and given grace by God? At some point, all of us have told a lie. If you tell me you've never told a lie, but my question is, does that make you a liar your entire life? No, you made a mistake. You told a lie. You're going to say you're sorry. You're going to redeem yourself and not do it again. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, and that is okay. But here's a man who owned up to his mistakes, who understands that he hurt someone, who understands it was wrong, and we are still shaming him for admitting his mistake. What he did was actually commendable. He is admitting it, and he's talking about what happened, no longer ashamed, but proud of the redeeming God who made him a better person. He kept saying, if I change one thing, I would change everything. And it includes this mistake that he has owned up to. How great is it to be able to say what you did out loud with so much freedom, knowing God has forgiven you? And then another thing is that we keep talking about Adrienne. We're here saying, oh, how could you just hear this and then she prays for him? That's exactly what she needed to do. She did what a woman of God had to do. She prayed for him. And then other people are like, well, she should have gotten him and the wife together and prayed for them as a couple. Yes, she could have done that. But at that moment, it was him who spoke to her. It was him who had just told her something negative is about to happen. So what was she supposed to do? Oh, brother, hold on. Wait a second. Let's get your wife. Let's talk about this first. No, she took the opportunity to pray for him at that moment, as she should. So again, I don't understand, You know, how certain people can sit here and say, oh, look at him, he made this. It doesn't mean that that's who he is today. Yes, that's who he was at that moment. That's what he did. But it doesn't define who he is today. Or do we forget all the things that we have done and God and people have forgiven us for, and it no longer defines us? So when I look at this testimony that he's given, I don't look at it as, how could you? You're saying this so proud. I look at this as, wow, how great is it to be freed from something that, so freed from something that you can say it out loud and look back on it and see how far you've come. Because again, if God forgave them, who are you to not do the same?
Been begging the girls to not share things on podcasts when it comes to their relationships, how they feel about relationships. I seen Keke Palmer talk about, like, she's so successful, she just wants a man that's respectful and nice, and why don't, you know, women, when they're found under a bridge by some random rich man, like, nobody says anything to the men, yada yada, people hating on her and that. I seen Adrienne with her husband, Adrienne Houghton, I think is her last name, with Israel, on that podcast, and talking about how he had cheated, whatever. He shared that with her. She prayed for him, yada yada. People are ripping them shreds. I'm like, if the girls just, you know what I'm saying, like, keep it cute, keep it quiet, because at the end of the day, the internet doesn't have the nuance that you have of your relationship and your thoughts and stuff. And, like, yes, you want to share your opinions, but is it worth it to have these people that maybe don't really touch grass on a daily, who knows, just come in to your relationship and can now speak as if they know you and your partner and whatever? Like, at the end of the day, girls, keep it